welcome back to the Lunar Observer in-depth catch-up, except we're not actually catching up, we're still catching up, and I've done that joke before in the last episode. Today, we are covering Aridia as part of the March Madness Media Big Blowout Bonanza. So many words that can be alliterated and rhymed with that. The first image that we are looking at for Aridia is this officially released screenshot of Ratchet running away from some sand sharks, as you would expect him to do, because good gracious, those things are much scarier. It's like Piranha 3 all up in this place. The actual location of this area I can't identify easily, but this actually looks like it is the center island of Aridia, where the gold bolt is. So that's very cool that there is actually a screenshot in this area. That area always felt like an afterthought, because like for example, the large scoops on the front of the bulldozers, you could actually walk through them. Yeah, not pretty, but prettier this time. Here is Ratchet's ship coming in for a landing. What's notable about this screenshot is the color of the thrusters. They are yellow. In a previous build of the game, I actually noticed that the thrusters were blue, which contradicted with the color yellow that was used for the movie footage. It is obviously clear now that the color has been adjusted to match that of the movie. Here is the opening wide shot of Aridia. It should feel very familiar. There is a giant grey facility that is under construction, as shown by all the pipes and the construction equipment and that sort of thing. The exact nature of the building, however, as mentioned before, has been changed. Instead of being Outpost X11 and with a military conversation, this is now the McMark Sports Shack. So this will become basically a giant shopping mall for all you cool dudes out there in the Solana galaxy. Here's the pause menu. We've seen it before, but this is it's what it looks like on Aridia. The background nebulae of orange that I'm not particularly fond of is the same, but also the card collection icon option has an icon next to it of a holo card, and that's to let you know, I bet, that you have holo cards that you have not actually looked at, or you have holo cards just waiting to be unwrapped, which I'm sure Al will have a hissy fit over. Here's a look at the galleries menu under the extras page of the pause menu. Here in the gallery section you can unlock characters, weapons, environments, and Ratchet & Clank 2002 artwork. Interestingly enough, the Ratchet & Clank artwork is actually unlocked the soonest at 9 gold bolts. One of the other options under extras is appearance. Here you can unlock screen filter, bolt style, head mask, ranger armor paint, ranger ship paint, and hide HUD cheat options, or appearance options. I would imagine that only hide HUD is the only one that is representative of itself, whereas all the other ones are, you only unlock the first one at, say, 1 gold bolt for head mask, and you have a bunch of other options that can be unlocked when you collect further gold bolts. So yeah, you'll have a lot of different options. Ranger armor and ship paint is particularly interesting because beforehand we never knew that you could customize the paint. So this feels very much like a crack in time where you could switch between the Zoni and the hot rod and the military skin looks for Aphelion. And here are the out-and-out cheats. You can change the game speed, probably to fast forward in slow motion, and unlock infinite ammo and invincibility at 27 and 28 gold bolts. And if you look at the top, that basically means you have to collect all the gold bolts to unlock invincibility, and that makes a whole lot of sense to me. Here's Skid McMarks, and he's showing Ratchet the hoverboard that he has. As I pointed out in a previous in-depth, if you look on the wings of the hoverboard, you'll see that there are these 2 red rockets that I believe are used for boost, and they are not always depicted there. This is also, I believe, he said, I'll give you my hoverboard if you do. So this is obviously Skid's existing hoverboard, and you can tell that he's used it because there's a bunch of weathering on the front edge of the hoverboard for the 2 foot pads, and the wings. Here's Ratchet in the polygon playthrough standing around Aridia. Now what I really like here is the fact that Ratchet is standing on this metallic orange pipe, and his left foot, or the screen right foot, is actually displaced and is tilted and placed above it properly. It's a really cool detail because before in Ratchet games he wouldn't do this on sort of detail props such as the pipe. He would just sort of be standing through it. So very, very cool to see. Here's a really, really cool clip of Skid. He just looks so smug and smarmy. But you can also see with the specular highlight on his visor that there is actually a little bit of texture detailing there. I am not sure, however, if you can actually see through it, but it appears to be a sort of a dual visor headband thing, because you can see the audio cables running down from it. Ratchet is leveled up to Combustor to level 2, and it has now got plus 40% damage. Hooray! So here Ratchet is going along the sand, clear out the sand shark routes. In the previous image he had 85 and he started off with about 90, 91. But on the right hand side of this image you can see a grill and a yellow glow behind it, and there's a gold bolt there. So that gold bolt is still in its old location. You need to blow away the wall by using the explosive weapon, probably diffusion grenades, which is what you'll have at the time. Here's Ratchet firing the proton drum. And you'll see that the proton drum actually has a really, really long firing range, which makes it really useful for, say, firing a proton drum into a battle and then running up into the battle. That way you have a little bit of damaging cover to help you out via the proton drum. Here is the final area of the Sandshark course, and what's interesting is that there is no crashed ship here because, of course, in this particular version of the story, Skid doesn't crash land here. He is opening his ship shack here, so obviously he hasn't crashed. In the background though, you can still see a ship. It is a rocket that he uses to leave the place. This is another instance of the GrumbleNet vendor actually cutting in and giving you some advice on what to do with your weapons. At the moment, Ratchet has 11 raritanium, which is a significant amount. He can get 11 raritanium mods on any of his weapons with this. And the GrumbleNet vendor actually contacts him over the radio saying, "Hey, you've got a lot of raritanium. Come see me for an upgrade." During this fight, Ratchet defeats a sand shark and it releases a holo card. So defeating enemies with the Pyrocitor actually gives a chance to release holo cards. As far as I know, no weapons actually release both holo cards and raritanium. It's either one or the other. Here is the card collection menu as you flip around and view cards. You have various, the cards are sorted into triplet sets. There are 3 cards for each different set. So for example, Nivalis has sets for Nivalis Valley, Waterworks, and I bet Nivalis Caves. And Veldin has a bunch as well. When you collect all 3 cards in a set, you unlock a perk that I explained before, either more likely to get raritanium, more likely to get holo cards, more bolts, or more wrench damage. Here is another set that you can see below. You can see the fusion grenade section, which has the fusion grenade and the B6 obliterator from Deadlocked. This is a very clear reference to how the cards not just summing up locations from this game, Ratchet & Clank 2016, but also other games in the Ratchet & Clank franchise. The B6 obliterator was the bomb lobber weapon that was seen in Ratchet Deadlocked and only in that game. So there are a bunch of cards that you can get to learn about the history. And when you view a particular card, you can actually press X to flip the card. It doesn't actually flip the card, but it shows stats that would be provided on the back of a card. In this case, it's Nivalis Valley, home to 3,253 different species of insects, but there will only but a few roots and mind your manners. And at the bottom, it shows the location, system, and the location's first appearance in the original 2002 Ratchet & Clank. Now some of the blank spots you probably notice have a ×5 recycling icon next to them. What this means is that it is actually possible to get duplicates of cards that you already have. And if you trade in, and you can trade in 5 duplicates to get 1 card that you haven't got. So this is a way to make sure that even if, I'm guessing that the cards that you get are mostly random, you're not going to see something that you haven't seen before. But this is a way so that the randomization doesn't bite you in the butt. If you persist at it long enough, you'll get ×5 duplicates of various cards that you own, and you'll be able to trade them in for the one that you actually want. So here Ratchet is making his way through the sand shark course, and here is the upper plateau. Instead of jumping up a bunch of clifflets as he did last time, he instead has to go up a jump slot, which is... Going up the clifflets is always a little bit awkward because you don't actually see the top of the platform that Ratchet is jumping up. The jump slot is a more efficient way of getting up there. And at the top of the platform you can see that there is no lower pit where enemies are spawned into. There's just a central area. That was always confusing in the original game, and I'm glad they got rid of it. You can also see in the jump slot Ratchet's pose for as he is about to push away from the jump slot. He looks kinda nervous, doesn't he? The Porositor is leveled up and gained plus 28% damage. That's good because it doesn't deal a lot, it's only really good for small enemies most of the time. So here is what the screen looks like when you collect a duplicate. It just says so, and unfortunately it does not tell you how many duplicates you have, which I think would be a useful statistic to play so that you can know when you can trade for other cards as the display shows. Also, there's just really cool motion blur here with the Porositor flames. It makes it actually look good. So here is a display for a player from the Polygon playthrough activating the explosive crates, and you can see that they actually have an animated warning light display. The top one is a fully flashed light display, but the one on the bottom is actually making its way towards that, and it has a little bit of a rotating timer in order to sort of visually display this. It's a very small detail, but this pretty much explains the mechanics of how it works. Also, in the background you can actually see a warning barrier with a sign that has the look of a skeleton sinking into the quicksand. The quicksand on Aridia this time around is purpler than the rest of the terrain, and thus it's more obvious than the slightly darker brown mud from the original game. The detail for the screenshot might not be immediately obvious, but if you look at the top left hand side of the screenshot, you'll actually see Ratchet's shadow being cast way down on the ground over there. The screenshot just looks cool. It makes me want to have a Gadgetron vendor cube nightlight, or just a desk lamp to use. That would be really cool. Here you have the Raritanium mod screen for the Proton Drum. Its particular effects that you can purchase are holo cards, area of effect, and duration. So you cannot actually pick up Raritanium from Proton Drum kills. It doesn't look like. Here is the mystery upgrade unlock for the Combustor. Stable Plasma. The Combustor's plasma balls travel even further before burning out, allowing you to pick off enemies from a longer range. It basically means that the Combustor shots travel further and extend its range, which is always handy. One of the Fusion Grenade's mystery upgrades is the Frictionless Hopper. Apparently, after tossing out a grenade, the Fusion Glove deploys a fresh grenade to your hand even more efficiently, increasing your rate of fire, which is nice. And the Proton Drum levels up to level 2 with plus 50% damage. That makes it really useful, actually. Here's a aerial view of the plateau, again showing the fact that there is no lower area, but there is actually a fair amount of construction going on. This might actually be an extension of the McMark's Sports Shack, because there's a very clear circular structure being constructed over there. You can also see in the top right hand corner of the screen that you see the purple quicksand. There's a lot of detailing going on with the quicksand, and it's much more obvious, so you're less likely to fall into it, as I've explained just before. Here's the view of the sports shack with Skid's ship in the foreground. Just a really cool view. I like this a lot. Here's a view of one of the teleporters. This is actually a teleporter design that has been in use since Ratchet & Clank featured Tools of Destruction, first appearing on the Apogee space station, I believe. It is obviously not as compact as the original Ratchet & Clank teleporter, but the larger size of this one actually makes it easier to spot from a distance, and you're less likely to accidentally skip over it in case you need it. This is part of an enemy exploding, and what looks like meaningless white fog here is actually a cool effect. The white plane that you see here is actually completely flat. However, through CG programming wizardry, there is actually a bit of a fog effect going that you can see on the vehicle on the right, where it looks like it is disappearing into fog. This helps 2D objects and planes and sprites and stuff look much more convincing when they are passing through 3D objects. Otherwise it would just look like bad old-fashioned clipping. That doesn't really ever look good. Here's Ratchet flipping over one of the slime obstacles over to one of the Constructobots. What's interesting here is that he's actually firing at the sand sharks that are surrounding him. Beforehand in Ratchet & Clank 1, they didn't actually do that. They sort of ignored the sand sharks and focused entirely on you. Here, it's clear that the sand sharks are pests of the area, and the Constructobots, amongst their other duties, are trying to get rid of them. And another proton drum level up thing. I don't know why this is in here. Help! A really, really good look at the gold statues that open, that lead you into I keep forgetting the name. The McMark's Sports Shack. There we go. This looks like a bit of a random screenshot, but you can see reflections of the spotlights that are casting light up onto the wall. You can see the reflections into the purple slime. Now when Ratchet chucks the wrench here, what happens is that for some reason it flies up into the air. I have no idea why it does this. This particular screenshot is part of the swing shot course and is actually looking backwards to where Ratchet came. You can see the sort of stepladder look at the top right corner of the screen. But just in front of the steps you can see pipes, and that is completely consistent with what the level looked like 15 years ago. Now this is it at the end of the swing shot course as Ratchet makes his way into the final gadget room. And I took the screenshot because you can really easily see some of the glass detailing at the top of the screen. Here Ratchet picks up his weapon, but it is not in fact the Trespasser. Here he picks up the Hydro Displacer. Now as I explained in the Novalis in-depth, this is because Skid accidentally gets the plans to the Hydro Displacer and the Pugitaru water-sucking ship, so that connection and mishap is likely why the Hydro Displacer is there. And indeed, the help desk actually describes this as being a invention of Dr. Nefarious. Here is Ratchet jumping down from the gadget platform below. Now what's irritating is that none of the actual playthroughs of Aridia bother to explore that water section at the top of the screen. They just moved on. It was really irritating for me to watch because I really wanted to know what was down there. Now as Ratchet jumps over this, Captain Quark, the narrator, actually provides an interesting detail in that the Hydro Displacer was originally designed to unclog Valkyrie toilets, which means that the Valkyries, amongst other things, as I've explained before in the Kerwan video, is another piece of lore that has been carried backwards to help expand out the universe of the movieverse of the Ratchet & Clank Omniverse. Universe. Verses and songs. This is where the path now drops you off. Instead of being in the middle of the swing shot course that you have to make your way back, it drops you off much closer to the beginning of the area, so that this now becomes a three-way intersection, and it is much more obvious where you are. Here's Ratchet fighting some of the Constructobots. What's cool here is that the Constructobots actually fire flaming shockwaves down the walkways that present a specific obstacle for this environment with walkways. What isn't so cool, however, is well, I'm just not impressed by the fire effects in this game. The pyrocitor doesn't look all that good, and these flaming shockwaves don't impress me all that much either, I'm sorry to say. So, probably the least impressive part of the Ratchet games, from my perspective, at least. In this particular moment, Ratchet is using the buzz blades. I never actually saw any of the game players from GameSpot or Polygon actually purchase this. But here, you can see a buzz blade having just ricocheted off a wall, and when it does so, it actually lights up yellow. What's further interesting though is that Ratchet has actually completely shot in the wrong direction. But in the next frame, you can see that the same buzz blade actually loops around and heads straight for the enemy, meaning it has very, very good auto-targeting that is reminiscent of the chopper from Going Commando. And this is an even cooler detail. This particular buzz blade dealt the finishing blow on the constructor bot that is flying up into the air in its death animation here, but it still has a couple of hits left in it, so after doing so, it actually curves around and starts going for the constructor bot at the end of the conveyor belt. This makes the buzz blades incredibly efficient at killing enemies. Ratchet leveled up! This is the little display thing for when, well, Ratchet levels up. Here's a good look at the constructor bot. Just like in Ratchet and Clank 1, they have a red circular panel light thing on their chest, although this time around they are a perfect circle rather than being oval shaped. Ooh. Here Ratchet is descending down the platform into the lower section of the construction site. Now the narrator in this section says something very interesting. The McMark Sports Shack will sport the finest selection of hoverboards, grav bikes and gyrocycles, and will not be in stock until the next fall. Now, gyrocycles is another lore detail because in Tools of Destruction, Ratchet could pick up a gyrocycle that may or may not have been owned by his father Caden and sold to the smuggler. And so the gyrocycle is implied to be a Lombax device, although it probably isn't, given that Caden modified it with a Terra Thruster. But again, it's another one of those lore things making its way backwards into this universe, so gyrocycles are a thing. Now what are grav bikes? I don't know. Maybe they're the hover bikes from Going Commando and they're a different name. Maybe they're bikes that are much heavier than normal because they are suffering more under the effects of gravity. Hahaha. My jokes aren't the best, are they? Now in this particular shot you can see a constructor bot emerging out of the light, but the light is actually being cast by the neon tubes that make up these ledges. Again, another cool lighting detail, which is one of the most common things I point out with these in-depths when it comes to Ratchet and Clank. In this particular, this is another instance of these game players just clearly ignoring bits of the game when it drives me up the wall. I wanted to see them clear out this area, get bolts, get, to buy more weapons and ammo and get the holo card pack. Maybe I might see a really, really cool one. But no, they just keep going for reasons that escape me. Oh, well. But still, there's a holo card pack down there. And I believe when you enter this area, you can't actually go onto a left route like you could last time around. You have to go right. Now this particular section is Ratchet firing a combustor shot, and it actually casts light inside the pipe that Ratchet is in, and you can see that refracted in a circle around it. Now what I've also just realized here is that the hexagon texture used on the inside of this pipe is the same texture used for the floor on the Starship Phoenix 2 in Full Frontal Assault. How cool is that? Here's Ratchet shimmying along a ledge and getting to the upper area of that construction site. What's different here over the original game is that Ratchet actually has to round the corner here. This is something that I don't think he was even able to originally do, and it makes this climbing section at least a little bit more interesting. More than that though, it means that Ratchet is actually facing the correct direction, as you can see in this screenshot, so that it is more obvious to the player where they need to go. Now what's also neat in this screenshot is that if you look at the far left, you can see yet another holo card pack that you can pick up. Now this screenshot shows the light casting effect of the aiming reticule that shows up when you have lobbing weapons like the fusion grenade or the proton drum. What's also cool here is that the explosion in the distance, also caused by the fusion grenade, actually causes the trees to the right of it to actually shake in a shockwave, which is a really cool detail. This screenshot gives a really good look at the skybox and the nebulae up in the skies of Aridia. Really pretty. Here Ratchet is heading around and exploring the area after destroying all of the Blarg forces, and just to the right you can actually see a tent and a campfire, which suggests that Skid's agent has actually been stuck here for quite a while. This particular screenshot is similar to the last one, but you can see more obviously there is a gravity ramp that leads up to an upper area. In the original Aridia section, this is where a large defense cannon was located, but since this area isn't actually Outpost X11 anymore, it is a McMurk Sports Shack, a cannon would not be appropriate anymore, so it has been deleted. However, there is still stuff up there, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was a gold bolt there that you need to pick up after getting the Magna boots, or even the gravity boots. That would be even better. Here's a close-up of Clank, and this is a really good shot that shows a particular detail of his eyes. In addition to the traditional black rings that form the outside of his eyes, on the inside is an inset secondary set of black rings that you can see just on the edges of his green optics. This is a detail that not even the movie Clank appears to have. This is a screenshot that really shows off the good looks of Skid's agent. As you might expect, he's a scummy dude. I mean, if he hears something that he considers that I can sell that, yeah, I can make more money. Overall, just like most Ratchet and Clank characters, he is really detailed and chiseled, and he's got this really particular style to him. Here is a look at the card collection of the Polygon playthrough. What's cool here is that the Tesla spikes are of course a crack in time item, but the description says that they harness Gadgeton technology, even though the manufacturer is GrummelNet, which implies that GrummelNet stole the technology. Also below you can see the Praetorian Omni Wrench, which is now the official name for Azimuth's Omni Wrench. What's odd though is next to it is a card for the Omni Wrench 8000, except the picture is not of the Omni Wrench 8000, it's of the Millennium 12 from Quest for Booty and onwards. The actual Omni Wrench 8000 was used in Tools of Destruction, and there are known renders of it, so I really have no idea why that wasn't used here. This picture shows a different set of trading cards. You can see Veldon with Grimm's Workshop, and actually the last card is not the cave system, but actually the plumber, and not the water worker, like in Ratchet & Clank 1. Ooh, details. This next set shows Skid McMurks as part of the Aridia card set, and as part of the Hero set you have Ratchet and Quark. In this one you have a set of cards for Girl Power. This one has Tau and Apogee, and one of the other known cards is Angela Cross, which is very interesting, given her, she's had a bit of a troubled past as far as canonicity is concerned, regarding what her race is. Is she a Lombax? If not, what is she? Blah blah blah. So she's given an actual card. As to what the middle card is, my money is on Sasha Phyronics, the President's daughter. Robots, meanwhile, has Kronk as a card you can have. Now in this section you have the Combustor trio. You have the original Combustor from Tools of Destruction, as well as the dual Vipers from Deadlocked. Again, another Deadlocked reference there. Under the Porosity section you have the Omega Tech Frost Cannon, which is a weapon from not Going Commando. It appeared in All for One and Full Frontal Assault. Now under the Proton Drum you also have the Thunder Smack card as well. So yeah, Proton Drum cards are for electricity weapons. Here is a wide shot of the camera sort of panning away from where you saved Skid's agent over to the area just in front of Skid's ship. this is just a really cool picture, and it shows the middle island, and it is not as easy this time around because instead of being devoid of enemies, it actually has sand shark spawners all over it, so you're gonna have to fight for that thing. This screenshot meanwhile shows you the actual gold bolt. What's interesting here is that there is actually a teleporter here. You may have seen it in the screenshot that started off this section. This teleporter probably takes you right back to where Skid's agent was, or it takes you to the teleporter pad that is in front of Ratchet's ship landing site. Here's a picture of Skid and his agent together, and Skid isn't lying this time about his sprained ankle. It is actually injured. Here's a screenshot of the Rilgar racetrack from the promotional video that Skid's agent gives Ratchet. In the top right corner, you can see, as I've pointed out many times beforehand in different areas, that is the airship that was from the 2006 Ratchet & Clank Metropolis tech demo, designed to show off what Metropolis might look like under the PlayStation 3's incredible horsepower. And as I pointed out in a previous in-depth long ago, the preview on the monitor is actually of Captain Quark doing his beginning spiel at the beginning of the Ratchet & Clank movie teaser from, as of this date, 2 years ago. Can you believe? Here is a really good look at the hoverboard. It's because it's a still image, it is a much better look at it than when Skid was holding it earlier. And you get a really nice look actually at the various stickers that he's placed on it. I also like the description. Blast on over to Rilgar and experience the pulse-pounding thrill of doing Mach 3 on a rocket-powered piece of plastic. This is from earlier in the video. It's a really good look at Rilgar in general. The buildings in the center of the screen leading towards the city are the initial building hubs that lead over to the hoverboard track eventually. It's a really long route, but in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you can actually see the pontoons that lead over to the sewer section pipe. Yeah. And here is a picture of a hoverboarder. Well, actually, this bit isn't actually from the beginning of the video, it's from the correct place. Haha, I ordered it correctly. But this particular picture shows a really good view of the underside of the McMarx 4000, the new name for the hoverboard. And here is a wide shot right after Skid and his agent leave. This, I think, will be one of your new wallpapers for the next couple weeks. This is an interesting image mainly because of what Clank says in the subtitles. He said, Ratchet, we should explore the rest of the sports shack. In this particular playthrough, Polygon, the player hasn't actually explored the sports shack yet. So Clank actually asks Ratchet to do so. And this is good because it's actually a gadget required to pick up the trespasser that you need for Quark's super secret Don't Tell Anyone mission. So, yeah. But what I'm guessing is that what Clank says here is different depending on what you have left to do. So for example, we should try and find Skid, for example, or Skid's agent, or we should really go to Blackwater, or we should really get around to rescuing the Rangers right now, Ratchet. I mean, seriously, why haven't we gone to Metropolis yet? And this particular image is Rilgar as it is displayed in the map screen. This is from GameSpot's playthrough, and they actually skipped over Kerwan, so they haven't been there yet. But here's what Rilgar looks like. And again, a bit like Metropolis, it has been altered to be a much more general Earth-like planet that you just happen to be visiting at night. And that's it for the Rilgar in-depth. Sorry, the Aridia in-depth. The Rilgar in-depth will be up next, and it is the final part of the Lunar Observer Big March Media Blowout Bonanza in-depth series. So I'll see you then.